Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk about one of my latest research papers titled European Online Storytelling in Times of Hybrid Warfare. It's about the case of Russia and Ukraine on X. And as a brief introduction, the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 triggered not only a humanitarian catastrophe, but also a communication crisis that reshaped the global information order. Within hours, social media became saturated with competing narratives, official statements, citizen testimonies, propaganda, and disinformation. My research examines how the European Union communicated institutionally during the first year of the war, focusing mainly on how its three main institutions, the Commission, the Parliament, and the Council, and their respective leaders or presidents, used the social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter. So this study explores whether their online communication was coordinated, what kinds of narratives they adopted, and how effectively they engage the public in a moment of geopolitical crisis. So let me begin by setting the stage briefly. For years, the EU has been aware of its so-called communication deficit, the gap between European institutions and their citizens. And social media offered a way to reduce this distance by promoting transparency, immediacy, and a two-way dialogue. Yet in times in crisis, this same digital environment becomes a double-edged sword, amplifying both reliable information and, of course, disinformation. Russia's aggression therefore represented a stress test for the EU's digital communication system. And this study situates EU communication within the broader framework of hybrid warfare, where information is weaponized to manipulate emotions, perceptions, and public opinion. The analysis does not focus on disinformation itself, but rather on how institutions responded communicatively within that environment of contestation and uncertainty. So, the main objective was to examine whether European institutions act with an unified voice during the conflict, adopting a consistent tone, a consistent vocabulary, or whether their messages and strategies diverge into fragmented narratives. To do so, five hypotheses were proposed at an earlier stage. Those are the ones that you can see on screen. Regarding methodology, the research combines quantitative and qualitative approaches. The quantitative component is a content analysis of 1,466 posts published on X between February 2022 and February 2023 by six verified accounts, those of the European Commission, the European Parliament, and the European Council, and the personal accounts of Ursula von der Leyen, Roberta Metsola, and Charles Michel. That was the president of the European Council back then. Tweets were filtered for English language content related to the war and coded manually according to three levels: narrative, interaction, and engagement variables such as predominant topic, the use of keywords and hashtags, purpose or function of the post, hypertextual strategies, mentions, quotations, retweets, likes, and quote tweets. And to complement the quantitative findings, several in-depth interviews were also conducted with experts in EU communication, international journalists, and practitioners from the EU institutional bodies, from the DG of each organization, offering interpretive insights into institutional strategies and perceptions of their effectiveness. Let me now summarize the key results. Overall, the European Commission was the most active account, followed by the Council and then the Parliament. And regarding to narrative across all institutions, the dominant themes were support from Ukraine, sanctions against Russia, and updates on EU decisions and humanitarian aid. So we could find solidarity hashtags such as hashtag stand with Ukraine or hashtag EU solidarity appearing prominently, especially in institutional accounts. Um, Multimedia content was a defining feature of EU communication because more than 80% of institutional posts combine text with photographs, infographics, or video clips. However, regarding interaction was relatively limited. Most posts avoided mentioning other users, and direct engagement with media, academics, or NGOs was extremely rare, only European leaders and organizations. And as expected, the personal accounts of EU leaders performed much better. Their posts attracted much higher engagement levels than those of the institutional accounts they represent. Ursula von der Leyen's tweets, for instance, consistently surpassed 500 likes and often generated hundreds of retweets or reposts. And in contrast, the Commission's and Council's official accounts rarely reach similar numbers. This suggests that personalization and leadership visibility significantly enhance digital impact, digital visibility, even in institutional contexts. What's interesting as well are the references to disinformation appear in less than 5% of the entire dataset. Although combating false narratives is a declared EU priority, this topic receives surprisingly little attention in the actual content posted on X during the first year of the war. And as we could see, out of our 5 hypotheses, 3 were totally confirmed. The first one was partially confirmed, and the second was not confirmed due to the reason I've just stated. Taken together as a conclusion, these findings reveal both strengths and limitations in the EU's digital communication strategy. On one hand, institutional accounts display coherence, professionalism, and clear alignment across the Commission, the Parliament, and Council. On the other hand, the limited interaction with journalists, experts, and citizens suggests that EU communication still functions in a relatively closed circuit, the so-called euro bubble. And strengthening cooperation between institutions and the media will not only expand outreach, but also help counter disinformation more effectively. The research also highlights the growing importance of transmedia storytelling and audiovisual formats in public communication, and especially in crisis communication. In conclusion, the Russia invasion of Ukraine marked a turning point in the EU's approach to digital communication because the Union demonstrated unity and visibility on social media, positioning itself as a key political actor in times of hybrid warfare. Yet the challenge remains how to move beyond Polish institutional message towards genuine dialogue with citizens, media, and civil society. In sum, understanding how institutions communicate in times of crisis helps us understand better how democracies defend not only their borders, but also their narratives and their citizens' trust. So if you want to know more details, because I know that was kind of brief, you want to know more details about this research, you can find the full paper that was recently published in the journal Information. Thank you very much for your attention. You can, of course, contact me in case you have any comments, doubts, or questions after watching this video presentation. Goodbye.